Okay, let me tell you about that day. It started like any other, really. The city was already humming outside my office window, that big, sprawling view I'd worked my whole life for. Coffee, black, sat steaming on my desk, piles of reports, meeting schedules, the usual armor of a CEO. My assistant, bless her, had already culled the first batch of resumes for the new head of innovation role. It was a big one, important for our future. I'm David, by the way. David Miller. And, yeah, the papers call me a millionaire, sometimes billionaire, depending on the market. But that morning, I was just a guy trying to find the right person for a job. I picked up the first resume. Impressive. Next one, also good. I have a system, you know? Skim for keywords, look at experience, then a deeper dive if they catch my eye. I'm usually pretty detached. It's business. Then I got to hers. Sarah Evans. The qualifications were spot on. Top university, relevant experience, glowing recommendations. I found myself nodding. This one's a contender, I thought, making a mental note. I read through her achievements, her skills, all the standard stuff. It was a solid, professional resume. I was about to put it on the interview pile when my eyes caught a small section at the very bottom, under additional information. Most people leave this blank or put something generic like references available upon request. But hers had just one sentence. One sentence. It read, "My birth mother, Eleanor Vance, told me before she passed that my father was a David Miller from Willow Creek, who she knew in her early 20s. The world just stopped. Willow Creek. Eleanor Vance. The air left my lungs like I'd been punched. My hand, the one holding the resume, started to shake. Not just a little tremor, but a real, uncontrollable shake. The glossy paper crinkled in my grip. Eleanor. Ellie. It was like a dam inside me, one I didn't even know was there, just burst. 40 years. 40 years I'd buried her, buried that time, buried the choices I made. We were kids, Ellie and I. Young, stupidly in love, with no money and even fewer prospects. She got pregnant. We were terrified. I was a coward. I told her I couldn't do it. Couldn't be a father. Couldn't give a child anything. I convinced myself it was for the best, for her best, for the baby's best. I left, ran, more, like it. Built this empire, this life, brick by painful brick, maybe to prove I wasn't that scared kid anymore, or maybe to forget. But you never really forget, do you? The name Eleanor Vance, staring back at me from that resume, wasn't just a name. It was a ghost. A beautiful, sad ghost I thought I'd laid to rest. And now here she was, speaking to me, through her daughter. Our daughter. My vision blurred. I didn't even realize I was crying at first. It wasn't a quiet, dignified tear rolling down my cheek. No, this was a sob. A raw, heaving sound that ripped out of my chest. Something I hadn't done since I was a boy. My carefully constructed world, my corner office, my millions, it all just dissolved into the face of a young woman I'd never known, a love I'd thrown away. My assistant Martha must have heard. She poked her head in, concern etched on her face. "Mr. Miller, are you all right?" I couldn't speak. I just waved a hand, a dismissive gesture that I hoped would make her go away, but my body was betraying me. I was hunched over, the resume clutched to my chest like a life raft. She came in, closed the door quietly. "David," she said, using my first name, something she rarely did. She'd been with me for 20 years, seen me through market crashes and hostile takeovers. But she'd never seen this. I finally managed to lift my head, and I'm sure I looked a mess. "Martha," I choked out, my voice thick. Get Sarah Evans on the phone. Tell her I want to see her. Today, as soon as possible." "The applicant?" she asked, her eyes flicking to the resume I was still strangling. I just nodded. unable to form more words. The weight of 40 years of regret, of wondering what if, had just landed squarely on my shoulders. The millionaire, the CEO, he was gone. In his place was just David, a scared kid again, facing the biggest consequence of his life. An hour later, Sarah Evans walked into my office. She was young, bright-eyed, a little nervous but with a quiet confidence about her. She had Eleanor's eyes. Oh God, she had her mother's kind, intelligent eyes. I stood up, but my legs felt like jelly. "Ms. Evans," I began, trying to sound like the CEO she expected. "Sarah, please sit down." She sat, perched on the edge of the expensive leather chair, looking a little intimidated by the big office. By me. I didn't know where to start. How do you start a conversation like that? "Your resume. It's very impressive," I managed lamely. "Thank you, Mr. Miller." I took a deep breath. "The last line," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "The note about your mother, Eleanor Vance." Her eyes widened, just a fraction, but I saw it. A flicker of hope, of fear, of a question she'd probably carried her whole life. "Yes, she," said softly. She didn't tell me much. Just a name, a place. I wasn't even sure if you were the same person. It was a long shot. Putting that on my resume, maybe inappropriate." "No," I said, shaking my head, fresh tears welling up. "No, not inappropriate." I looked at her, really looked at her. The shape of her face, the way she held her hands. Echoes of Eleanor. Echoes of a young me I barely recognized. "Eleanor," I whispered, the name still an ache. "I knew her, a long time ago, in Willow Creek." A single tear traced a path down Sarah's cheek. "So, it is you?" I could only nod. The word yes felt too small for the enormity of the moment. All the success, all the money, it meant nothing. This girl, this stranger who was my own flesh and blood sitting in front of me, she was everything. A chance I never thought I'd get. A past I couldn't outrun. Finally catching up in the most unexpected, heartbreaking, and hopeful way. We just sat there for a moment, two strangers bound by a secret nearly half a century old. The silence, thick with unspoken words, with lost years, with the ghost of a woman we both loved. The millionaire cried that day, not because of loss or failure in business, but because of a single sentence that unburied a life he'd tried to forget, and in doing so, offered a fragile, terrifying glimpse of a future he never dared to dream of. It was the start of something. I didn't know what, but it was a start. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt something other than the weight of my empire. I felt a tremor of hope.